The cold vastness of space stretched out before the crew of Sol's Reach, a ship that represented humanity's final step into the unknown. It was a quiet journey. Too quiet, almost suffocating. The hum of engines was barely noticeable, and the bright lights of the ship's interior only served to contrast the consuming darkness outside. They were on the edge of the Orion Arm, the farthest any human had ever traveled into the deep folds of space. Nebulae, vast and swirling, painted the cosmos in colors unseen, their gaseous clouds seeming to pulse with hidden life. Ancient debris from long-forgotten wars and shattered worlds drifted by like ghost ships of another time. But there were no signals, no signs of civilization, no trace of life, just the eerie silence of space. As Commander Sarah Vance stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the uncharted stars, a sense of unease gripped her. The ship was supposed to be a triumph, the cutting edge of humanity's reach. But here, on the precipice of the unknown, the silence was deafening. Every minute passed with the weight of something unseen, something waiting. Their mission had always been one of exploration, but now, with each second, that mission felt like a gamble with the unknown. They had come so far, but they had no idea what they were truly stepping into. Could humanity handle what they would find here? No one knew, and that was the scariest part. Sarah's mind wandered back to the tragedy of first contact, the moment that had defined her life and career. The memory was burned into her mind. Her brother, Captain Thomas Vance, standing in front of a machine that had misinterpreted their peaceful approach as a threat. It had been a simple gesture of goodwill, a universal sign of peace. Yet the machine had reacted with lethal force. Her brother's final transmission was the last thing she heard before the light faded from his eyes. The incident was branded into her soul, and since then, Sarah had carried the weight of that tragedy, questioning everything she knew about diplomacy, about first contact, about humanity's place in the galaxy. Now she was the one leading this mission, facing the unknown once again, but this time, with an entire crew depending on her judgment. And that was her greatest fear, making the same mistake again. What if this mission, this leap into uncharted space, ended in disaster? What if history repeated itself? Every decision she made was colored by that ghost, the shadow of human error. On the bridge with Sarah were the minds and might that made Sol's Reach more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's will to survive and explore. Dr. Amos Ireland, the ship's chief scientist, stood by the console, his face lit by the faint glow of holographic data. His hands moved gracefully over the interface, as if conducting an invisible orchestra. He was a man of ideas, not weapons. He believed in peace, in the power of music and understanding before missiles. To him, this mission was more about discovery than defense. Then there was Major Rurik Zhao, the ship's tactical officer. He was a man of action, the kind who trusted only what his weapons could answer. He stood rigidly at the edge of the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the unknown, always alert. His world was built on strategy, and he viewed this journey as a potential battlefield. Anything could be a threat. Everything was a weapon until proven otherwise. And finally, there was the crew. The survivors, the idealists, the skeptics, each with their own motives for being there. Some were eager to make history. Others were just trying to survive. But they were all here for the same reason: to explore the unknown, to discover what lay beyond the stars. Together, they stared into the dark, waiting for the first sign of what lay ahead.
The scanners flickered. At first, it was nothing more than an odd disturbance, a pulse of math, a rhythmic vibration, like the pulse of some unseen machine. The crew watched, their hearts skipping a beat as they processed the anomaly. It didn't make sense. The coordinates they were scanning were in an unnamed system, a barren world that hadn't shown any signs of life. Yet, here was a signal. The faint pulse grew stronger, more defined, and then something unexpected happened. A harmonic tone echoed through the ship's systems. The crew held their breath, their eyes wide. It wasn't random noise. It was language, but not any language they knew. It wasn't radio. It wasn't static. This was something structured, something purposeful. Then the message came through, cutting the silence like a blade. Run. The word hit them like a shockwave, reverberating through the ship's core as if it had always been there, buried deep inside the machinery. One single word, spoken with chilling clarity. Run. The entire bridge fell silent. Every crew member froze, their faces pale as the implications of that single word crashed down upon them. The sound wasn't distorted by a transmission delay, it was as if someone had whispered directly into the heart of the ship itself. It wasn't a message, it wasn't a call for help, it was a command, a warning. Or was it a threat? Sarah stood frozen, her fingers gripping the arm of her chair, her eyes locked onto the comms panel. Who sent this? She whispered, her voice barely audible. No answer, no source, just the word. And the silence that followed it was deafening. Run, a command from the unknown. Dr. Amos Ireland was the first to speak. It's a plea, a cry for help. He stared at the panel, his eyes wide with wonder. They need us. We have to respond. Major Zhao shook his head sharply. It's a trap, a setup. This is exactly what the ex-Rathian Empire did to us years ago, luring us into a kill zone. No message, no plea, just bait. Sarah's mind raced, torn between their vastly differing viewpoints. Ireland saw beauty, an unknown species reaching out for help, a desperate attempt for communication. Zhao saw danger, a trap, an ambush set by an unseen enemy. Both were valid. Both were terrifying. But in that moment, Sarah knew something was different. This wasn't just a first contact situation. This wasn't about diplomacy or understanding. This was about survival. And the wrong choice could set off a chain reaction, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. The tension on the bridge was thick, palpable. She couldn't ignore the fact that the fate of all humanity could hinge on one simple decision. Do they run, or do they risk answering? The crew was still divided, the weight of their choices pressing down on each of them. But the decision would have to be made soon. Too soon. Then, without warning, the stars shifted. From the outer edge of the system, something stirred. Objects, unmapped, uncharted, began to move. They shimmered in the deep black, lights pulsing in patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Space itself seemed to fold, rippling like a surface disturbed by an unseen force. The crew of Soul's Reach didn't know it yet, but they weren't alone. The message had been received, and whatever was out there had already seen them. The galaxy had answered back, and now their fear had been transmitted.
The silence of space wraps around Soul's Reach like a thick, suffocating blanket. Drifted far beyond the Orion Arm, the ship glides through the cosmic black, its hull bathed in the light of distant stars and swirling nebula. It's an eerie tranquility, where the unknown lingers in the corners of every sensor, and the distant hum of the ship's engines seems almost too loud. The crew is used to the vast emptiness, but today, something feels off. Dr. Amos Ireland stands at the observation deck, his eyes locked on the distant nebula. His fingers hover over the console, adjusting readings, but his mind isn't on the data. The silence, he murmurs to himself. It's too perfect. Suddenly, the quiet is pierced. A single word echoes through the comms. Clear, direct. Run. The word wasn't a fluke. It wasn't interference. It wasn't random. Again, clearer, louder, as if someone or something was already listening, waiting. The comms crew exchanges looks. No one moves. Vance feels it first, a chill crawling down her spine. She's seen too much to mistake a simple glitch for something else. She presses her fingers to her temples, trying to steady her breath. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not now. Who? The word slips from her lips. The cold emptiness of space is no longer just vast. It's now personal. The bridge falls into a tense silence. Commander Sarah Vance watches the blinking consoles before her, the soft hum of the ship a far too loud backdrop to the steady pulse of fear building in her chest. It's not the unknown that frightens her, it's the consequences of a single decision. Dr. Amos Ireland, ever the optimist, speaks first. It's a distress signal, a call for help, maybe a lost civilization. If we send out the right response, we can trust it. Major Rurik Zhao interrupts, his voice cold and sharp like a blade. This is a trap, a predator hiding in the shadows. It's a lure, and we're the bait. But how do we know? Ireland presses. What if it's genuine? What if they need us? Zhao's eyes narrow, his hand instinctively brushing the weapon at his side. If it's genuine, we'll be dead before we can offer help. Vance stands at the center of it all, feeling the weight of her crew's conflicting instincts. A decision hangs in the air. Hope, fear, caution. One wrong move and everything changes. The galaxy could either be a friend or a battlefield. I'm not sending out a message to an enemy we haven't seen, Vance finally says. We proceed with caution, but we'll answer. We can't afford to ignore it. The tension on the bridge is unbearable. Every eye is glued to the screens, every ear tuned to the comms. The crew waits, breath held, wondering what they might hear next. Dr. Ireland stands at the comms panel, his fingers trembling over the controls as he prepares the protocol message. It's a classic move. Neutral, clear, and firm. A first contact approach. Identify, he whispers. The message is sent into the void, and they wait. Minutes crawl by. Then without warning, the reply comes. Fast. Too fast. The ship's systems barely register it before it's there, ringing through every comm, rattling their very bones. It's not just a message, it's a command. Vance's heart races, her mind races faster. What does this mean? Who is it from? And more terrifying still, why in English? I thought we were alone, she mutters more to herself than anyone else. The tension in the room explodes, but the silence outside remains deafening.
Sensors flicker and hum, only to fall silent. The ship's systems detect nothing, but that's exactly what they should be detecting. Nothing. The emptiness of space, the cold vacuum that surrounds them, should remain still. But it doesn't. Gravitational waves ripple through the ship, subtly at first, like a ghost brushing against the hull. Then more pronounced. The ship groans in response, as if it too feels the shift in the universe. Vance slams her fist down on the console. What the hell is happening? Something's moving, Zhao growls, eyes scanning the flickering screens, but not in any way we understand. Across the view screen, the stars shimmer, like something is distorting the fabric of space itself. Objects, faint outlines appear, then vanish, phasing in and out as though space is no longer linear, but bending around something. It's coming. Fast. Faster than any ship should be able to move. And whatever it is, it's not using known physics. It's hunting, Zhao says with an edge of dread in his voice. Vance's stomach twists. They're not alone. And whatever is out there, it's already found them. Panic starts to take hold, subtle at first. Vance orders an immediate jump to FTL. Get them out of here. Get them away from whatever's coming. Her hand slams the command down on the console. But nothing happens. Report, Vance shouts. The FTL drive is dead. Not offline, not malfunctioning. Dead. As if the ship's systems have been disabled from the outside, without a single alert, without a single warning. What the hell is going on? Ireland stammers, his eyes wide with disbelief. We're trapped, Vance mutters, her mind working quickly to piece it all together. Whatever's out there, it's already inside our systems. No alarms, no flashing lights, just a creeping dread crawling under their skin. And then, the comms crackle again, a whisper, faint but unmistakable on the edge of hearing. A voice,
not from any source they recognize. It's laughter. The air in the command room is thick with tension. The crew, once unified under the banner of exploration, now finds themselves at odds. Irelin paces in front of the main console, hands wringing. We need to send something, anything to let them know we're not a threat. We can't just sit here. No, Zhao's voice is firm. We need weapons. We need to defend ourselves. We need to prepare for the worst. Vance looks between them, her mind spinning. The weight of leadership presses down on her shoulders. Hope versus survival, a peaceful gesture or an act of war. Every decision pulls them further from the path of peace and closer to something they can't control. I'm not making that decision, she says quietly. I'll listen to you both, but we need more than just our instincts here. Zhao's eyes narrow, then listen carefully. Trust is what got us here. As the crew scrambles, the final signal arrives. A hum on the comms, deep, ancient, and utterly alien. It's not just technology, it's something more. Something personal. The ship shudders as the signal pulses through the ship's core, deeper than anything they felt before. And then, a terrifying realization. The language. It's older than any known human dialect. It's not a tech signal. It's a culture, intent. And it's not from the outside. It's inside their systems. We've been boarded, Vance whispers, her face pale. Without a single footstep. The realization sinks in. The enemy was never out there. It was always here, inside, watching. And now, they have no choice but to face the unknown head-on.
The vast, empty expanse of space feels strangely suffocating as the ship drifts further into the unknown. The crew of the Endeavour watches from the bridge, eyes glued to the distant object slowly coming into view, a vessel like nothing they've seen before. It's not metal, it's alive. The alien ship pulses with faint, rhythmic movements, as if breathing, tendrils undulating across its surface in eerie waves. Dr. Ireland stares at the display, his breath catching in his throat. It's organic, he murmurs, more to himself than anyone else. A biological vessel. The ship seems to grow, stretching and contracting like a living creature, its surface alive with strange, glowing veins. It scans the Endeavour with uncanny precision, its movements almost deliberate. What kind of alien intelligence could create something like this? Major Zhao grips the edge of his station, tension in his jaw. This isn't just an invasion. This is something worse. Are we dealing with a machine or something alive? What if this is a predator masquerading as prey? Commander Sarah Vance stands at the front, her mind racing. She's no stranger to high-stakes decisions, but this feels different. Something inside her stirs, a mix of wonder and dread. She feels the wake of her responsibility crushing down. Keep calm, everyone. We don't know what it is yet. But deep down, Sarah knows that time is ticking, and with every passing second, the unknown edges closer. A harsh alarm blares across the bridge, jolting everyone into action. Sarah quickly orders the crew to initiate defensive protocols. Shields activate with a deep hum. Weapon systems come online, but there's no guarantee they'll work if this is something alive. Sarah stands with her hands firmly on the control panel, eyes flickering between her crew. Major Zhao is already barking orders to the tactical officers, readying weapons with precision. We're not sitting ducks here. Get ready to fire at a moment's notice, he growls as his eyes narrow as the alien vessel inches closer. Sarah's heart pounds in her chest. The ship has come so close now, its tendrils reaching toward them like something alive, a twisted mass of organic matter that defies any known laws of physics. The tension on the bridge is suffocating. Every person aboard the Endeavour is silently holding their breath. A voice cuts through the air, trembling but determined. "Commander!" Dr. Ireland calls from his station, his eyes glued to the communication screen. This could be our first contact. We could learn so much, but if they're hostile, we're already dead." Sarah's mind spins. Her instincts scream at her to prepare for the worst, but she can't ignore the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they're dealing with something that isn't a threat at all. Sarah stands alone in the silence, the bridge crew awaiting her decision. The cold weight of command presses down on her. Her past, the painful loss of her brother in an intergalactic skirmish, haunts her thoughts. Could this be another war waiting to happen, or is there a chance to avoid conflict? Do we attack, or do we try to communicate? Sarah's voice is low, but the question lingers like a toxic cloud. She knows Zhao is ready for war. He always is. The Major sees threats in every shadow and every flicker of light. But Dr. Ireland? He wants to understand, to make peace. His voice, quiet yet firm, rings in her mind. It's a message, not a threat. We need to listen. Her fingers hover over the communications panel, her heart aching with the weight of what might come. If she opens that channel, there's no going back. She could risk humanity's survival for the hope of peace. Or she could take the safe route and prepare for a battle that could annihilate everything. But in her chest, a soft voice calls out to her. The memory of her brother flashes in her mind. She can't let history repeat itself. We try to talk, she decides, the words leaving her lips like a prayer. Initiate communication.
The alien transmission bursts into life, but it's unlike anything Ireland has ever encountered. The usual patterns, the familiar structures of language, none of it is there. Instead, the transmission is an endless stream of sounds that seem to stretch and contract like an alien song. No verbs, no clear commands. Only the barest impression of intent. Ireland's eyes widen as he deciphers the message. There's no verb structure, he says, his voice faltering. It's not a direct message. The word run, it's not a command. It's ambiguous. It could mean anything. Escape, start over, cease to exist. The crew falls silent. They've been trained for every scenario, from planetary invasions to AI takeovers. But this is different. Dr. Ireland's mind races. What if the aliens aren't threatening us? What if they're offering us a choice, a chance for change? A tense silence follows, each crew member lost in their own thoughts. Could this be an opportunity, or is it a trap? Zhao can't hold back any longer. His nerves fray as his sense of urgency overrides his respect for Sarah's command. In the midst of the debate, he activates the comms, sending a message to Earth Command without permission. Hostile alien contact confirmed. Prepare for conflict. Full military response advised. The message cuts through the silence like a blade. It feels like the right move, pragmatic, calculated. But as the transmission goes out, Zhao realizes with growing dread that this could be the spark that ignites a war. Zhao, Sarah snaps, her voice trembling with anger and fear. What did you just do? I did what needed to be done, Zhao responds, his jaw clenched. You've always been too hopeful, Sarah. Hope doesn't win wars. Back on Earth, fear grows. The message Zhao sent is intercepted, setting off alarms throughout Earth Command. The decision is made. A beacon is sent, an urgent warning to the Allied fleets, a call for backup. But the aliens are watching. They know what's coming. A second alien ship appears out of nowhere, moving faster than any human ship could hope to follow. It intercepts the beacon, and then, boom. The second alien ship detonates in a burst of light and energy, destroying itself in an act of self-sacrifice. The blast is powerful enough to send shockwaves through the Endeavor, shaking the entire ship to its core. The crew stares in stunned silence, trying to process what they've just witnessed. Ireland's voice shakes as he processes the data. The run message? It wasn't a command to flee. It was a call, a cure hidden in the beacon. As the debris of the exploded ship drifts through space, a terrible truth becomes clear. The aliens didn't destroy themselves in an act of aggression. They did it to protect humanity from an infection. The beacon sent by Earth contained a biological virus, one that could have wiped out both species if it spread. The alien ships weren't attacking, they were trying to protect Earth.
They knew humanity was carrying a deadly virus, one that could endanger not only them, but all of the galaxy. And in that moment, the crew of the Endeavour realizes that they may have inadvertently caused the destruction of an entire alien race. The run message wasn't about fleeing. It was about saving them all from a death sentence. Humanity might be the cause of their demise, but perhaps, just perhaps, it also holds the key to peace.
The vastness of space trembles as fleets of alien warships and Earth's forces stand poised for conflict. The cold expanse of the universe becomes a battleground of mistrust and panic. The galaxy, a place of endless possibilities, suddenly becomes a powder keg. It all started with a single word: run. It echoed through the deep void, transmitted on frequencies meant to warn, but what they warned of, no one knew. The ships of the Valari Compact glide through the stars, their sleek forms radiating power. Across the stars, humanity's fleets, bolstered by their dreadnoughts, line up with precision. The tension in space is palpable. The ships are like predators, their weapons raised. A simple transmission, the word run, has ignited the powder keg. Captain Reza Monroe, through comms, tight voice. Target locked. Prepare for engagement. I want no mistakes, people. Fire on my command. But then, in the deepest corners of space, the alien fleet, now seeing the human ships as a threat, activates its own weapons. Both sides, fully equipped, make the tragic assumption that the other is the aggressor. And in a moment of terrifying misunderstanding, war breaks out. Laser fire streaks across the stars. The universe erupts in chaos. No one could have predicted the repercussions of that single command. The galaxy, a place of endless possibilities, suddenly becomes a powder keg. The space battles are nothing short of apocalyptic. Massive ships collide in a blaze of fire and explosions. Shields flare and weapons discharge, painting the void in bright arcs of death. The two fleets are locked in a deadly spiral, each firing upon the other, convinced of the other's hostility. Across the galaxy, the war rages. Human ships like ancient war machines clash with alien dreadnoughts, bright beams of energy cutting through the darkness. Alien fleets, once peaceful travelers, now reduced to war machines. The true enemy is lost in a fog of distrust, and the galaxy becomes a battlefield where the cost of misunderstanding is measured in lives. Sarah Vance, voice trembling. Why didn't we understand? They're not the enemy. They're just like us, just different. Commander Sarah Vance, the leader of the human fleet, watches as her crew scrambles to maintain control. The once majestic ships now seem nothing more than fragile specks of life in the unforgiving void. Sarah Vance, gritting her teeth. We can't keep doing this. We have to find out the truth. Amidst the chaos, Sarah makes the ultimate choice: to escape. With the battle intensifying, she orders her ship to break away, aiming for the unknown, the alien homeworld. A desperate journey, one that could either bring peace or doom to them all. Sarah Vance, steely determination. We end this now. Dr. Irelin, prep the ship. We're going to find out what this message really means. With the help of Dr. Irelin, the scientist who has been studying the alien transmissions, Sarah sets course for the heart of the enemy. The journey will take them to the unknown reaches of space, dangerous, alien, and full of hidden truths. The ship speeds through the stars, leaving the chaos of battle behind. But even in the emptiness of space, there is no peace, only the relentless drive for answers. Sarah knows the risks. If they fail, the war will never stop. And yet, she feels a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, there is another way. The alien language proves to be more complex than they imagined. Dr. Irelin spends hours, days, studying the transmission, running analysis after analysis. Dr. Irelin, looking at the data. No, it's not a threat. It's a command. A containment command. Sarah looks at Dr. Irelin in disbelief as the realization dawns on them. Sarah Vance, whispering, Containment? What does that mean? Dr. Irelin urgently.
They're not telling us to run. They're warning us. The word run, it's part of their collective consciousness. The signal we sent, it's a virus. We've infected them. Their minds, they're dying. Sarah's heart races as the horrifying truth settles in. They didn't just misinterpret the alien signal. They had unleashed a biological weapon on them. Sarah Vance, anguish in her voice. We caused this. We're the aggressors. We're the ones who doomed them.
Sarah stands before the console, torn. The fate of humanity and the aliens hangs on her next choice. She can warn Earth, but that could lead to an all-out war. Or she could destroy the signal, but that might leave her stranded, and she would never know if her actions saved the galaxy. Sarah Vance, fighting tears. If I warn Earth, it'll only make things worse. But if I destroy the signal, they'll never know what we did. They'll think we gave up. Her thoughts are clouded. She thinks of the soldiers she's led, the families who await back home. Her mind races. There's no clear answer, only consequences. Sarah's decision isn't just about survival. It's about choosing between saving humanity and protecting those they've yet to meet. Sacrifice looms, but so does redemption. The weight of it threatens to crush her, yet she knows one truth. There can be no peace without understanding. In a moment of clarity, Sarah makes her choice. She overrides the Earth communications beacon with her own FTL core. The energy unleashed is catastrophic. The beacon, her ship, everything is destroyed. Sarah Vance whispers, voice breaking. If this is how it ends, then at least it ends in hope. The explosion pulses through the stars, an immense shockwave of energy that disrupts both human and alien fleets. It is an act of defiance, a final message to both sides to cease the war and reconsider their actions. The battle fleets, confused and disoriented, come to a sudden halt. The ships hover in a strange, uneasy silence. Sarah's sacrifice echoes through the fleets of both sides, reverberating with the same message. We must understand before it's too late. The war does not end with a bang, but with the flicker of a single defiant flame. One woman, lost in the vastness of space, has changed the course of history. Her name will never be spoken in triumph, but her sacrifice will echo in the hearts of both humanity and the alien species for generations to come. As the fleet commanders process the loss, the word run takes on a new meaning, a plea for peace, a call for reconciliation, a demand for understanding. Sarah floated in the black silence of deep space, her escape pod barely functioning. Every breath inside the cramped pod was recycled, stale and heavy. The stars didn't move, and time became meaningless. She had no way of knowing if anyone even survived, if anyone was looking for her. She spent her days rationing oxygen and her nights dreaming of what she gave up. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was judgmental. Her thoughts haunted her. Was it enough? Was peace worth this? Then, on the 97th day, the silence cracked. A bright shimmer split the void. It was not Earth's navy, it was something new. Sleek curves, colors that shimmered like oil on water. Human design blended with alien grace. A hybrid ship. Inside, a crew of both species stood over her, eyes wide with something more than shock. Hope. They had come for her. Her sacrifice hadn't been buried under war. It had been heard. Commander Sarah Vance, battered and weightless, was carried aboard as a symbol, living proof that two species could choose understanding over annihilation. The rescue wasn't just for her, it was for everything her decision had represented. The galaxy had changed while she drifted. Now she had to see what it had become. The truth didn't explode, it whispered, a slow leak through shattered networks and battered command channels, a decrypted message, a retranslated signal, and with it the realization that the war, it never had to happen.
Run, the word that burned across systems, wasn't a threat, it was a containment, a plea. Earth's signal was a warning, not an attack. Entire alien fleets froze in place, their crews stunned. Some wept, others raged, not at humanity, but at themselves, at what they had allowed fear and assumption to create. The firestorm had devoured billions, all because no one stopped to ask. But acceptance didn't come easily. Many still saw humans as dangerous, unpredictable, and truth alone could not unmake grief. The ghost of the dead didn't care about semantics. Still, slowly commanders across the stars lowered their weapons, shared recordings, sat at tables with translators instead of battle maps. War was no longer honorable. It had been a misunderstanding. The hardest part wasn't admitting Earth was innocent. It was forgiving themselves. The path to peace would be longer than the war.
Back on Earth, the political storm was fierce. Military leaders demanded rearmament. Protesters filled the skies with holograms of the dead. Senators screamed betrayal. Others begged for restraint. And still, amid all this chaos, a single proposal gained traction: the Treaty of Non-Interference. It wasn't weakness, it was strength in self-control. Earth would not dominate, would not retaliate, would not seek revenge. Instead, it would observe, learn, and share. In exchange, alien species agreed to open their cultures, their knowledge, their truths. Quote, "No more assumptions, no more silent threats," unquote, the document read. It passed by a single vote. Ships that once carried weapons now carried envoys. Research teams replaced strike forces. The galaxy no longer saw Earth as a child with a loaded gun, but as a species capable of choosing a better way. It was a gamble, but it was also a statement. Humanity would not let war define them. Sarah sat on a quiet observation deck, eyes fixed on the stars she once fell through. She wore civilian clothes now, no rank, no badges. Just her breath fogging the transparent shield before her. She had saved the galaxy, but at a cost she still paid every night. Every crew member who died in the crossfire, every alien mind shattered by misunderstanding, every decision that felt right and still hurt like hell. Peace had been born from ashes, and ashes still clung to her. She didn't regret her choice, but that didn't make it easier. She thought of her father, who had died believing the war was righteous, of her brother, lost on the front line, of the comrades who never made it out of orbit. Her pain wasn't unique. Across alien worlds, others mourned the same way. But perhaps that shared pain was the beginning of something better. Sarah didn't need statues or medals. All she wanted was this: for no one else to sit alone in space, wondering if they mattered. Dr. Ireland adjusted the collar of his diplomatic robes, unfamiliar fabric brushing against his neck. He wasn't a soldier. He had never held a gun. But today, he was stepping onto the most important battlefield of his life. The alien council chamber was vast, minds linked in ways humans couldn't imagine. He stood among them, translator pulses humming softly, and spoke with clarity. "We are not perfect, but we can learn. Let us build something worthy of our losses." It was the beginning of a new chapter. Ireland's work would not be easy. Misunderstandings would happen again, but now someone would be there to catch them before they sparked into war. Major Zhao removed his medals quietly, one by one, placing them on the desk in front of the defense board. His face was hard, but his voice cracked. "I believed we were defending Earth. I see now I was defending fear." His resignation wasn't political, it was personal. He had ordered strikes based on flawed intelligence. He had ignored doubts, and worst of all, he had never questioned why. Now, he would live with that. But he also vowed to teach future soldiers the truth, not of tactics, but of patience, of listening, of humility.
Redemption wasn't about forgetting. It was about changing. The stars no longer blinked with warnings. They pulsed with invitation. Earth's name was no longer whispered in fear, but spoken in cautious respect. Human art spread through markets in the Antari worlds. Alien science was taught in Earth's academies. Children played on gravity-balanced parks built by both. Humanity had changed, not by conquering, but by enduring, by admitting fault and then reaching forward. The war had nearly broken the galaxy, but in its aftermath, something stronger had begun. Not an empire, but a community. Sarah stood on a platform orbiting a twin star system, watching human and alien youth trained side by side. "We were strangers. Now we're becoming something more," she whispered. And somewhere deep in space, where her beacon had once pulsed with war, silence reigned. Not the silence of fear, but the silence before a symphony begins.
The sky above Teleria Prime shimmered with twin suns, their golden light bouncing off the glass domes of the Intercultural Learning Academy. Inside, soft ambient light painted the classroom walls in warm hues. Children of many species sat shoulder to shoulder, scaled, skinned, furred, and feathered, symbols of a new era born from the ashes of war. Among them sat a child with lavender-tinted skin and bright, curious human eyes. Her name was Ava, half human, half Yuvari, whole heart. She raised her hand, her voice clear, innocent. Why did the war start? The question silenced the room. It was not the first time the question had been asked, but coming from her, a child born of both sides, it carried weight. In that moment, every teacher and student felt the echo of old pain and the fragile thread of new peace. And outside the window, stars blinked silently, like they too remembered. Professor Kaylin, a graying scholar with silver tattoos of the Yuvari caste etched along her jawline, slowly stood. Her eyes glistened with memory, not just of battles fought, but of voices lost. She walked to the front of the class, her hand brushing against a display showing old wartime footage. Burning ships, desperate faces, a fractured galaxy. She turned to Ava. Because one word can mean many things, and one voice can change everything. The class sat still, absorbing the meaning. Miscommunication, assumptions, fear. The war had begun not with weapons, but with a mistranslated signal, a cry for peace, mistaken for a declaration of dominance. And sometimes, Kaylin added, we need to listen, not just to what is said, but to what is meant. It was not a full answer, but it was enough. Ava nodded, her small face full of thought. The galaxy had changed, and so had its questions. Just above the academy, in the plaza lined with stones from 100 worlds, stood the statue. It was cast in matte silver, tall and still. Commander Sarah Vance. She stood facing the open sky, her stance proud but bowed, as if watching not for enemies, but for what came next. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her armor was scuffed, unchanged from the day she walked into the heart of a war and told both sides to stop. One human among titans, a voice that cracked through silence. The base of the statue read only one thing: she chose peace. Inside the classroom, Ava turned to look up at the towering figure. Her heart beat a little faster. Her father had told her stories of Vance's final broadcast, of the tears shed across battlefields when the war ended, not with surrender, but with understanding. And outside, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of unity trees.
crossbred flora that only grow on peace worlds. Ava smiled. Though she had never met Commander Vance, something in her chest stirred. Not just pride, but responsibility. The future wasn't just inherited, it had to be earned. And she was ready.